Morning all. So are you all clear with the basics of WS coordination, which we have seen yesterday? Yes, okay. So let us just revise that concept, because today we will be exploring WS atomic transaction and WS business activity in detail. So we have seen that in WS coordination framework, there are three major services. The first is activation service, which is supposed to create the context information. And then activation service shares that context with all the services which are going to be part of that, right? So basically, any service from your framework which wants to initiate the communication, right, or which wants to initiate the task, that will be calling the activation service. Activation service will be responding with the return context message, and it will provide the context information. And then the application service can invite the others. Plus, it can also register for a particular protocol. As I discussed yesterday, there are various protocols available depending upon whether you are using WS atomic transaction or you are using WS business activity. Depending upon the type of coordinator, the protocol will change. Fine. It is also possible that a service can register for multiple protocols if required, right? So that is about activation service. Registration service will provide the facility of registration. It is just like registration desk for the event that you are having, right? So you have to get yourself registered if you want to be a part of that particular coordination. And then you have coordinator service itself, which is going to manage the entire scenario. And in the end, it will manage the completion process. So last time we were discussing about this, right? When the situation is about to get complete, or let us say when it is complete, at that point, the application service, right, will be invoking the coordinator with a message that is known as completion request message. Okay. And then this completion acknowledgement message will be sent immediately or not. It is again a request and reply, but it won't be sent immediately, right? Why? Why it is not going to send it immediately? What is the reason for that? Yes, exactly. So it is a feedback collection process, right? It is a feedback collection. You are informing coordinator. Yes, exactly. Right. That's correct, Urjit. You will be asking all participants that have you completed the task, right? And it will wait for all the responses, right? If it is atomic transaction coordinator, then it has to decide the outcome based on all positive responses, right? Because if any one service responds with negative acknowledgement, then what you have to do in that case? If it is atomic transaction, then if any participant responds with negative in terms of this completion acknowledgement message, you will have to roll back, right? Correct. But if it is a business activity, then it is not necessary that everyone should respond with a positive acknowledgement. It depends upon the business logic that you are having, right? So that is why we are having two types of coordinators. One is WS atomic transaction and the other is WS business activity. Okay, but basically coordinator's job would be to collect the feedback. Okay, and based on the feedback it collects, it will analyze that feedback, and then whatever is the final outcome, that will be informed to the application service, right? So message number 1 will be completion request message from application service to coordination service. Message number 2, 3, 4, and so on will be sent from coordinator service to all the participants, right? And it is asking for the completion acknowledgement. Fine. Message number, let us say 10, 15, 10, 11, 13, right? And so on will be completion acknowledgement, and the final message will be from coordinator to the application service. Okay. So although it is drawn as a simple request response, but the final response will be sent after some period of time. Is that point clear to all? Right. So we have to wait for the feedback collection. Okay. So are we all clear with activation registration process and what is completion process? Right? Okay. Now you might have a question, what is activation process over here? So can anyone tell me what is activation process? We have described this activity as activation and registration process of WS coordination. So what do you understand by activation process in this scenario, which is shown to you in this slide? Activation is equal to what? Yes, or you can say context creation has been done, right? Activation is equal to context creation, right? And context creation includes starting and sharing as well, right? So activation process involves context creation and sharing that context, while registration involves to make the participants register for a particular protocol. Okay, are you clear with these two terms now? And the completion we have already seen, right? So there are three processes of WS coordination framework that you have to follow if you want to implement WS coordination in your framework, in your SOA. Okay, now let us look into some of the, you can say, concepts regarding SOA. So coordination, right, in terms of SOA gives us composability. Is that correct to say? Coordination provides composability. If I give you this statement, is it true or false? It is true, right? The reason is coordination provides us management of multiple services, right? You can work in a complex activity in a proper way if you have coordination framework, right? So coordination helps you to achieve composability principle, right? This is again a true statement. Coordination helps us to achieve composability principle. Okay, just trace down the arrows which are written in this slide. Atomic transaction and business activity give different protocols for coordination, right? That's why the arrow is from atomic transaction to coordination, because every type, either atomic transaction or business activity, give us the different protocols, right, for coordination. Now, what coordination gives you in return? It gives us standardized control of complex activity, right? We can control the complex activities in a standard manner. Plus, it can support a good way of managing the context information, or you can also say state information for web services. Okay, so is this diagram clear? Is this arrow and the directions clear to all? Right. So what is the importance of coordination for SOA? This slide is the answer for that. Right. You should be able to explain that in words or answer any MCQ based on this, right, if it is asked. Is that fine? Right. There are other principles listed on the right hand side, but they are not going to be supported as of now, right? Coordination directly supports composability. That's why you can see a direct link. Okay. So that is what is the concept of coordination. Now, let us look at the example. Okay. So invoice is going to be submitted to accounts payable service, but it is received by load balancer in between, as we all know, right? So the coordination is going to start from account payable service, right? So account payable service will be your application service, and that service will be calling the activation service for context creation. Yes, sure. I'll repeat. Coordination provides support for composition. Is that point clear to you, Rujit? If you have coordination, then we can achieve composability, right? Now, There are two types of coordination, and that is why you can see two more ellipses, atomic transaction and business activity. They provide you different protocols, which I'm going to discuss today. Is that fine up to that? Upper part of the diagram? Right. Now the bottom part says that what is the benefit of coordination? Suppose it is asked you in MCQ or in a short question, what are the advantages of coordination? So you can say that it provides you a standardized control of complex activity, because complex activity requires management, and that management is provided by coordination. Okay. Plus, if you are implementing coordination with web services, right, then coordination gives you a good way of managing the context, because we can write down our context information in the message itself. We don't have to write that in the service. So services would be, you can say, more or less stateless, right? Your messages will contain the context information. Is that fine? Yes? Yeah. Okay. So this is the advantage and the application of coordination, right? So let us again go back to the example. So account service, right? You over here, the author has also numbered the messages, right? But it does not matter because he has not, you can say, ordered the response messages, right? Ideally, we can also number that, but he has just numbered the steps, you can say. So first step is you are submitting a message to load balancer. Then load balancer forwards that to account payable, and then your coordination starts. Okay. So coordination, can I say that it is within organization only or within one company? From this diagram, can we say that? There are two companies you can see in this diagram. One is Railco and another is TLS. Coordination is implemented within only TLS. Right? It is not spanning across multiple organizations. Do you understand that fact from the diagram? Yes. So see, basically one framework, or inside that you will be implementing coordination, right? It will not be spanning across the multiple frameworks, right? So that is what, again, one more important point you should know regarding this. Okay. So how many participants you will have in this case? Based on this example, there are 3 participants, correct, right? Plus we need how many other services? 3 plus what? What is required so that you can implement coordination? It is also possible that requires other framework service for completing task. Yes, yes, we will see that, Priyank. There is another framework for that, right? There is another framework if you want to manage coordination between different organizations, right? We need 3 more services, right? One will be activation service, right? If you have implemented that separately, activation service will be responsible for creation of context. All of you agree with that? Yes? Okay. Okay, Urjit does not agree. See, basically activation service is coded separately because its role is to just create the context, right? So that is why we consider that as a separate service. Is that fine, Urjit?
Hello, sir.
Yes, yes.
But why we are putting it separately? Because account payable service can do that task too.
Yes, but that will that violate the rule of logic design? Because see, account payable is supposed to you can say contain the logic of only accounting, right? So if you are giving the task for creating the context also, then are we violating the logic decomposition rule? I think you will agree with that, right? So ideally, activation service is kept separate. Got it? Right? So activation plus what else? What are the 2 other services we require? Registration, right? Number 2. Number 3, coordinator, right? All of you are clear? Yes or no? Okay, so if you want to implement WS coordination in practical situation, right, you will require at least 3 more services, right? See, different frameworks provide you different ways of implementing coordination. In Java, there are different, you can say there's a different technology for that. In .NET, there's a different technology for that, right? But you should have studied the concept so that whenever you are tasked to create that, right, you should be able to do it. Right? Right now, we are just touching the concepts, right? We are not going into implementation. I hope it makes sense, right? Clear? Okay, so implementation technology can be different, right? But these are the concepts that is going to stay, right? Okay, so this is the summary slide. I'll be posting the slides right away after this lecture, so you can just refer to them, right? So this is the summary of what we have seen in coordination. Now, let us begin with atomic transaction. Just observe this slide for a minute and tell me whether you understand or not. I think you can read the text, right? It's a good example. So what service A is saying that I'm going to ask you to do some work, but if either of you screw up, we are going to forget it ever happened, right? That's what we mean by atomic behavior. Yes or no? Yes, all or nothing. That's correct. All or none. Yeah, that is like that, right? So in some kind of situations, right? So can I say that this is again an example of atomic behavior? If vendor profile is not able to validate the invoice, will you make payment? If vendor profile is not able to check the contents, you will not be making payment. That's correct, right? If ledger is not able to update the register record, right? And that is a critical mistake. See, because if you are not able to record transaction details, then ultimately you will not remember that you have made that payment, right? So in that case also, you will not go forward. Are you getting this? Right? So can I say that this is another example of atomic behavior? Right? So actually, account payable, vendor profile, and ledger, all three have to be atomic, right? Or you can say this is a combination of atomic services or atomic behavior, fine? So whenever atomic is just not only for banking transaction, right? It is also for business, you can say task. Over here, we are doing business task. We are asking vendor profile to perform validation. Then we are asking ledger to update. You might also have a notification service to send the email, right? If any one of them is not able to do the task, you will not go with the final outcome. Are you getting the situation that I'm trying to explain, right? So atomic transactions are not only for banking, right? They apply to business activities also, right? Just remember this point, right? Okay. So what are ACID properties? You all know this, but let us, you can say, consider web services. Atomic means all or nothing. That means either all the services should do their job or you should roll back. Or you can say either all the services should respond with true. Otherwise, if any one responds with false, you can roll back. Second is consistent. Consistency is about maintaining the data updation, right? Whenever you are updating the data, right, it has to be updated in every location. It should not be like that you are updating the local copy and global copy does not get updated, right? So we have to maintain or make sure that our web services are maintaining consistency while doing any update, right? Clear with first two terms? Yes, isolation. Isolation in terms of web service is what again? If you are having multiple transactions occurring concurrently, or you can say multiple web services working together in parallel, they should not interfere with each other, right? If their logic is different, definitely they will not be interfering, right? So we need to make sure that even if we are having parallel behavior, these should happen in isolation. Okay, durable. Upon completion of transaction, right, changes can survive failures. This is very important, right? Whenever you are making any change, right, in database or even in the, you can say, local data as well as global data, right? Even if something wrong has occurred, you should be able to recover that updated value, right? That is what we mean by durability. The update should not be lost, right? That is what is durability. So this is again applicable to services as well as it is also applicable to database. But as services are closely related with database, right? So these properties will also apply to services also, right? Are we clear with this? What are acid properties for services as well as with database? Sorry, right? Okay. Now let us. We have already seen the model, right? So I'm not spending more time on this, right? The only thing that will change over here is name of the coordinator. In earlier diagram, it was called coordinator service. Now it is called atomic transaction coordinator service. That's it, right? Again, you have the same registration service, activation service, and participants. Okay. Participants will be registering for a number of protocols, right? And who provides those protocols? Who provides those protocols? Which service? Registration or atomic transaction coordinator or AT coordinator. You can also say that in short. Yes, which service will provide you the protocols? Which service defines the rules? In other words, yes, that is AT coordinator. Correct, right? Registration service will just let you register for those protocols. Are you getting the difference between registration and AT coordinator? Right? Make sure that you don't get confused over here, right? Even with respect to MCQs or with respect to the theory, right? You should know what is the role of each service, right? Okay. So WS atomic transaction is a coordination type. It supports 3 protocols: completion protocol, durable 2PC protocol, and volatile 2PC protocol. Have you seen this term anywhere? 2PC. It is a short form of a very well-known database concept. Any guesses on that? Two-phase commit. Yes, it is two-phase commit, right? So, if you are the service or if you are such a service which represents permanent data, that means if you are having an account service, right? Bank account, I'm talking about bank account. Bank account service, can I say that it is going to maintain permanent or persistent data? Or it is connected to the permanent database that you are having, right? Yes or no? Permanent means the data has to be properly stored, properly preserved, right? So that kind of service has to register for durable two-phase commit, because durable two-phase commit will make sure that your update will be going through properly, as well as it is going to be durable in the sense of persistence. Your data will persist, right? So two-phase commit process, I'm not discussing right now. It is a database concept. You can just revise that, right? But basically, durable two-phase commit is used for such services which are maintaining critical data, Okay. The opposite to that is volatile two-phase commit, right? So sometimes you are just maintaining data for a temporary purpose, like an intermediary service. It is not going to maintain data for permanent, right? It is just doing minor update, right? So in that case, if you have such a service which is managing non-persistent data, that should register for volatile two-phase commit or volatile two-phase protocol. Is that fine? Is the difference clear? Durable two-phase commit and volatile two-phase commit, right? Yes, yes. Statement used for service for durable. Yes, yes. So for durable, suppose as I said, it is an account service for a bank account, right? So will you be registering that service with volatile two-phase commit, or will you be registering for durable two-phase commit? The answer will be durable. Why? Because it makes sure that your transaction will be going through without any problem, right? And even if there is any issue, it will be able to handle it, right? Plus, your data will be stored persistently, right? Your data will persist. Even if the, you can say some crash happens, you will be able to recover. That's why it is durable. Understood? So wherever data is critical, we will follow durable two-phase commit protocol. Where data is non-critical, the data that we are using is non-critical, then we will register for volatile two-phase commit. But if you have registered for either durable two-phase commit or volatile two-phase commit, whenever you are done with your task, you have to register for completion protocol. Just read the definition and tell me whether you understood or not. Completion protocol's definition. It is used for what? Initiating the commit or abort state of the transaction, right? So all services that are going to be participants in the end have to register for which protocol? Or you can say something which is compulsory, that is completion protocol. Understood, all of you? Right? Durable two-phase commit and volatile two-phase commit has a choice depending upon the data's importance that you are having, right? But there is no choice regarding completion protocol. In the end, every service has to register for that. Okay. Now, are you getting the idea what I was telling you about protocols, right? These are the set of protocols supported by WSAT coordinator, or you can say WS Atomic Transaction Coordinator. Making sense? Yes? Okay. There can be many more protocols, but right now we are covering the major ones, right? Because we are just covering theory. As I said, in implementation, you might have some more protocols because it depends upon the technology, either a Java framework or a .NET framework or any other. They might be providing their own ways of protocols, right? But in theory, we have these three protocols. Okay, fine. So this diagram now you can easily understand, right? We have three protocols: completion protocol, volatile two-phase commit, and durable two-phase commit. At maximum, how many protocols you will be registering for? One service can register for maximum how many number of protocols? If it is a participant of WSAT. Think and answer. Yes, I'll repeat. At maximum, a participant can register for how many protocols? Give me the number of protocols that you will be registering. Yes, correct. 2. Because it will be either volatile two-phase commit or durable two-phase commit, right? One of them, plus in the end completion. Understood? Right? So that's why the answer will be 2. Clear, all of you, with this AT coordinator? Yes. Okay, so let us continue. Now, what is the task done by coordinator that we have not yet seen? So let us go in detail of what AT coordinator does in the end, finally, right? See, this process will remain same. What we saw over here, there will be an application service that will request for the context creation. Then context will be shared, and then participants will be registering for that. That will remain same. But in the end, whenever the application service asks for that completion acknowledgement, then what we have to do, right? So that is what now we will see. So Atomic Transaction Coordinator is tasked with the responsibility of deciding the outcome of transaction. Obviously, right? Because its goal is to decide what happens in the end, right? Either everything should be committed or we should roll back. It is based on the feedback received from all the transaction participants, right? We should not miss any one service because this is atomic transaction behavior, right? So this happens in two phases. This feedback collection is divided in two phases. The first phase is known as prepare phase, and the second phase is known as commit phase. Can anyone tell me what should be done in prepare phase? You can try to relate with this diagram also. Where do you see prepare phase? Or which message initiates the prepare phase? Application to coordinator, that is initiating, yes, but where you are starting with you can say preparation of the completion. When coordinator issues the completion request message to all participants, when coordinator issues the completion request message to all participants, it is asking them to prepare for completion, right? That is what is the meaning of this. It is asking those services to prepare for completion, right? So that is what we mean by prepare phase. Let us look at that. All participants are asked to prepare. That means prepare or be ready for completion and issue a vote. Now, vote can be either of the two things, commit or abort. Right? Obviously, this is about atomic transaction. So if all the participants give you commit, then the final output will be commit. But if any one of the participant is sending you an abort, right, then the entire transaction will be rolled back. Fine. So that is going to happen in the commit step. Although it is called commit step, but we can also have rollback. Right. So all votes are reviewed and decision to commit or rollback is taken. Right. And this is the process of atomic transaction coordinator. Right. This has to be done in the end. Right. After receiving the completion request message from the application service. Understood this process? What is prepare and commit? Right. So I have the diagram to explain that also. So you can just observe this. Participant service A is sending a commit. Participant service B is sending a commit. But participant service C is sending an abort. So finally, what coordinator's outcome will be? Yes? Sure. Yes, finally, it will be aborting it, right? Yeah, I'm just pausing for a minute. Shefali ma'am will be announcing something regarding her subject. So just wait for her announcement. I'm pausing for 2 minutes, right? Then we will continue with this. Meanwhile, you observe this, right? This outcome.
Sir, may I announce something?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay. Students, SDP, your SDP batch for, my students at SPM lab will be conducted today from 3 to 5, 3:30 to 5:30, right? Today, my batch will be conducted from 3:30 to 5:30 today, and the link is here. I am pasting the link here. Please acknowledge that you have received that. Those who are in my batch, please acknowledge here. Okay. Okay. Okay, that's great. Today 3:30 to 5:30, right? Today time will be 3:30 to 5:30. Okay, that is today. Right. So see you at 3:30 today. Thank you, sir. I'm leaving now.
Okay, okay, welcome. Okay, so let us resume. Those who are in SPM's lab, you remember this link, right? Just save it so that you don't lose it. Fine. Okay. So we were discussing about that, right? If any one service responds with a, you can say abort, right? In previous slide, finally, a rollback is sent to all the services, right? So basically what we are doing over here is coordination service is asking all the service to go back to their previous states. Is that correct to say, right? Coordinator service is asking all the services to roll back to their previous states, right? As if nothing happened. We have seen that earlier in the example. Is this clear? Yes, I hope all of you are with me. Yes, okay. Okay. So now if we try to see what are the benefits of atomic transaction, right? Or what are the, you can say, advantages we get after implementing atomic transaction. So let's focus over here. Atomic transaction supports composability because again over here we are combining multiple services, right? It also supports interoperability. Why? Because again, see, this is not technology dependent, right? All the services that you will be implementing will be talking in terms of XML, right? So interoperability is going to be there, right? So we can say that interoperability is highlighted. Okay, Urjit has a point. Is there a good practice to roll back all services that are commit successfully? See, Urjit, if the final outcome or if your logic is like that, that if one service gives you a negative acknowledgement, then you cannot go ahead. Then there is no option, right? So it all depends upon your logic, isn't it?
Hello, sir.
Yes, yes.
But if the services like A, B, and C, A, B are committed successfully and C
Yes.
is aborted, and
Yes.
if our A and B services are not, what do we say, that depends or connected to
Yes.
the service C, then we can
Correct.
go
Correct.
for
I got
that
your point.
success.
Then you should not roll back those services. Got your point.
Okay,
Right?
sir.
But what if the logic is like this in a flowchart? Step number 1, step number 2, step number 3, right? And there is dependency. In that case, you will have to roll back everything, right? Okay, so it all depends upon the logic that we are having, right? This is just an example, right? Fine. But we can change it according to our, you can say, logic requirement, right? Okay. Atomic transaction gives you good quality of service. Is this true or false? If you use WS atomic transaction, the quality of services will improve. True or false? It is true, right? Why? Because you will be using a standard behavior, right? You are not using any custom logic over here, right? So that's why the quality of service will improve definitely, right? Now let us trace the arrows which are given. Business activities can include atomic transaction, right? So business rules might require atomic transaction in between. Do you agree with this? In our business logic, we might require atomic transaction at some point of time. Yes or no? Let us say if you think about the entire banking application. So in banking application, only when the account is getting updated, right? At that point only we require atomicity, or when the money is being transferred. Do we require atomicity in entire banking application? No, right? Obviously. So banking application is one large business logic, one large business activity. But for doing that, we require atomic transaction only for a few functionalities. Do you agree with this? Right? So that is why we say that business activity can encompass, or you can say can include atomic transactions if required. Okay. Atomic transaction defines the protocols for coordination, as we have seen earlier, right? An atomic transaction provides the transaction features for web services, right? Depending upon the technology you are using, either .NET or Java or any other, it will provide you different transaction features for web services framework. Okay. So are you clear with this slide? Summary slide of atomic transaction? Yes. Okay, if some service participate in different types of coordination, how they will work in different protocols simultaneously? Yes, they will not be working with different protocols at the same time, right? They will be working with one coordinator at a time, isn't it? Suppose you are doing an atomic job. At that point, you will be working with atomic transaction coordinator, right? You will not be working with business activity coordinator. I hope you are following, right? So simultaneously is not possible, right? But yes, you can register for two different protocols from two different coordinators, right? Okay. So now look at this slide. Is it justifiable now to say that account payable service, vendor profile service, and ledger service, it is an atomic transaction coordinator based services? Or you can say it is a set of atomic transaction based services? I think I have already explained that, right? So we don't need to go in depth. Yes or no? Yeah, sure, Rujit. Where is the question?
Sir, in
Yes.
here, uh, uh, this arrow is not getting me, like
Which one? Which
from
one?
atomic transaction to web services.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it should be from coordinator to that web services arrow will be there.
See, atomic transaction is a concept. We are not, see, this is not a service. Remember, atomic transaction is not a service. These are concepts which you can see over here, right? So in atomic transaction concept, that means if you use atomic transaction concept, it provides a standard way to manage the transaction details for web services. Can I say that? Right?
But sir, when we see that the above one, the above
This one.
previous, no,
This one are you talking about?
no, still up. That 80 protocol and business, which yes, this one.
Okay, yes one. This one,
So
this one,
I'm
yes.
confused over here.
Yeah. So don't worry, there is no confusion. Let me clear this out. See, these are not services, right? Atomic transaction is depicted as a concept over here. Business activity is depicted as a concept, right? These two concepts provide you the protocols for doing coordination. That is the meaning of this first two arrows. Understood that? That part at least, right? So don't misunderstand this with web services. See, web services are drawn as circles while concepts are drawn as ellipses. I hope you are getting that notation, right? So these are the concepts, right? Now, see, over here again, these are web services, right? Can you relate that? Right? Even for this model, these are drawn as circles. So these are the services, right? Now, if we go back, is that clear now? Atomic transaction gives you a method, or you can say it gives you the features or functionalities so that web services can have proper transaction mechanism. Understood that? Yes. So these are just by the author for summary of every topic, right? So that's what I'm covering. So that if you want to revise this subject quickly, you can just refer to this. You will be able to recall the concepts, right? Okay. So this we have seen, right? This is atomic transaction behavior. Fine. So let us now go for the next task, business activity. Right now we have two more differences to cover over here. Business activity mean they are always long running and complex, right? They are always long running and complex, right? So what is the difference between business activity and regular activity? We have already seen that earlier in last week. or you can say yesterday only we have seen that, right? Service activity. We have seen two types, primitive and complex. Anyone remembers what was primitive activity? Yes. Primitive means you are having request and response. Remember that? Yes, two services only. And complex can have more than two. Am I saying that correct? Right? Yes. But what is the difference between a business activity and a normal complex activity? In case of business activity, all the participants are required to follow specific rules. They are not, you can say, independent in one sense, right? All the participants have to follow some standard rules defined by someone, right? So if you have that kind of behavior, for example, if you define your logic like this, let me just depict that over here. If your logic is like this, that follow step number 1, then you should go to step number 2, then check a condition. If condition is true, then you go for step 3 or go for step 4. So can I say that I'm defining a business rule over here? Sort of business rule, right? It is just like a flow chart, right? So this is what is meant by business activity. In business activity, you have to stick to some rules, right? And you have to follow those rules. While in standard complex activity, you might be independent. You might not be following the rule. You are just doing the job whenever you are asked to, right? So that is the difference between business activity versus regular complex activity. Is that fine? Yes. Now there is one more difference between business activity and atomic transaction, right? In atomic transaction, we usually have rollback capability, right? But in business activities, do we require rollback? No, right? Basically, what kind of behavior will have? If plan A, or you can say if condition A has failed, then you go for plan B. If plan B fails, you might have a backup plan as well, right? And finally, you will have an exception handling plan, right? So ideally, we don't roll back. Are you getting the difference, right? So in case of business activities, how we deal with exceptions is different in case of the business activities. And that is why the protocols are different than the protocols which were defined in atomic transaction. In atomic transaction, we had those 3 protocols, which were named as completion, durable two-phase commit, and volatile two-phase commit, right? Over here, we have this kind of behavior. Just observe this. This is the classical example of business activity. Let's try plan A. If that doesn't work out, we'll try plan B, right? So every service has an option, right? Are you able to understand this figure? Right? So this is what we mean by business activities, right? But while doing business activities, we might require atomic transactions in between. Yes or no? While doing business activities, we might require atomic transactions in between sometimes, right? Agreed? Yes. So if I say in that way that business activity may include atomic transaction, right? That is one statement. And atomic transaction may include business activity. Which one is correct to say, first or second? First is correct, right? Because atomic transaction is going to, yes, atomic transaction is going to be short-lived, right? It is not going to last for a long time, right? So you might not have plan A and plan B over there, right? It is just rollback, okay? But business activities may require the atomic transactions in between. Okay, so that is the difference. Now, let us look at the protocols. So we have two protocols in concept of business activity. The first is, let me give you the short form so that you can easily remember, BAW PC, right? And the second is BAW CC. Business agreement with participant completion and business agreement with coordinator completion. What is the difference? Let us understand this. Business agreement with participant completion allows the participant to determine when it has completed its part in business activity. That means participant itself can control when it can exit the system. Remember, participant itself can control when it will exit the system, right? Is this concept clear? It has more right, you can say. The participant has more right, okay? But if you are having business agreement with coordinator completion, that means you are dependent on coordinator to inform you that now your task is done and you can leave. Is the difference clear? BAWPC versus BAWCC, right? So whenever the, yes, I'll repeat. Business agreement with coordinator completion means you are dependent on the coordinator to let you know that your job is complete now and you can exit, right? While in the first case, you yourself can decide that your task is done and now you will exit the system, okay? So if you are having dependent business logic, in that case, you will go with which protocol? First or second? If you are having dependent business logic, that means you yourself cannot decide. Right? In that case, you will go with second, isn't it, Urjit? Yeah, right? And if all the participants are working in more or less independent way, then you will go with the first one. Clear? Right? So depending upon the situation, the different protocols will be registered. Okay? So this is the model diagram for that. Business activity coordinator. We just change the name of the coordinator. All other services are same. And the other difference is the protocols are different. Okay? Clear up to this, all of you? Yes, am I making sense with that? Yeah, okay. So let us continue. Whenever you are having business activities, there is one more concept gets added that is called state of the service, right? We have seen state transition diagrams in UML, right? So this is a similar concept. At every point of time, the service can be in different state. At every point of time, the service can be in different states, right? So while a service is a participant, while a service is an active participant, its state is known as active state. While a service is an active participant, its state is known as active state, right? Now, when a participant wants to, or when a participant completes its job and it has registered for BAW PC. Remember, when you are in active state and you have registered for BAW PC, what BAW PC gives you? What is the benefit of BAW PC over BAW CC? You can decide your completion, right? You have more rights, correct? Right? You have more rights. Fine. So in that case, you will be moving from active state to completed state. Can I say that? When the service has completed its job, it will move from active to completed. Understood that? Right? While you are working, you are in active state. Now you will enter completed state. Clear or not? This transition? It is just like the object state transition which we were having, right? Okay. So active and completed are first two states. Then things don't go, you can say, in positive way always, right? So if things don't go as planned, you can enter one more state that is known as compensation state, right? So basically in compensation state, what you would like to do? Ideally, why would you have entered a compensation state? What are the reasons? One of the reason can be your plan A has failed, right? Plan A has failed. So you will have to switch back to plan B, yes or no? You will have to switch to plan B, right? So while you make that transition, you are in plan A has failed, right? And you have to switch to plan B, right? So while you do this process, where you will be, in which state? While doing the switching of the plans, you will be in which state? While you are in switching, you will be in compensation state, isn't it, Prince? Because you are doing exception handling, right? We cannot roll back, right? We cannot roll back. We have to switch to plan B, right? Then again, we go back to active state, right? Agreed. After we have started plan B, we again go back to active state. Are you able to visualize these transitions that are happening, right? I don't have any diagram to support that, but I think you can understand, right? Yes or no? Okay. What if no plans go as per the planned manner? We have to terminate, right, the system, or you can say we have to terminate the service. So in that case, we will enter the cancelled state. Okay. Remember, there is no rollback, right? So we have to just cancel that service. We have to stop that service because none of the plans are going through. Are you understanding what is cancelled state? Right? If all the plan fails, finally, you will have to enter the cancelled state. Okay. In that case, cancellation notifications are distributed to every service, right? Because you will be notifying the other services, other participants and coordinator that I am cancelling my job, right? Because plans are not going as per the regular planning, right? Clear up to this fourth state, cancelled state, right? Now, there is one more state in the end, right? That is called exit state, right? So after you have completed your job, you will enter completed state. After you have completed your job, you will enter completed state. Now, will you be remaining a participant for infinite period till the entire task is complete, or you can leave? Will you be remaining a participant for infinite period, or you will be leaving ideally after your job is completed? You will be leaving. Yes, all of you agreed with that? So from completed state, we have to make one more transition. And which will be that? From completed state, we have to make one more transition, and that is to exit state. Are you following this, what I'm saying, right? Or terminated. Yes, you can say terminated, but we call it exit over here, right? This is the difference between BA and AT, right? Why this is the difference? Can anyone tell me? Why exit state is the difference? Can a participant leave in between if it is atomic transaction? Can a participant leave in between if it is WSAT? No. But can a participant leave in between if it is WSBA? Yes. Yes. Understood that difference clearly, right? Provided which protocol you should have registered with? Remember, there are two protocols, right? BAWPC and BAWCC. Plan A fails now. If no needed, then A can exit. Yes. If there is no plan B, then you can exit, right? Yes. But ideally, you will have plan B, right? So that won't happen. Fine. So are you clear with the difference? What is WSBA versus what is WS? Yes, yes, Udit.
Sir, but when we are going for B,
Hmm.
is that the case that we will never go back to the plan A?
Yes, definitely. Because see, plan A has failed totally, right? That is why you are
So
switching the
what's
plan,
the
right?
so if the switching happens over here,
Hmm.
then
Hmm.
plan A is no need to stay. It can exist, and we can continue from
See,
plan B.
plan A is if part of your logic, and plan B is else part of logic. So that logic won't go anywhere, right?
Yes.
Right? It is not a service. Remember, plan A is
Okay.
not a service. It is just a logic that you are having. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Right? So that is what we should understand, right? So this is the last slide that I would be covering. Then I'll stop. This example proves that business activities can cover atomic transaction, right, whenever required, and we have already discussed this, right? So I'll stop over here. If you have any further queries, we'll discuss that in next week. Okay, you can also send me an email, okay, for that. Thank you.